Why this hotel never lets certain guests meet. At first, it feels like coincidence. Missed breakfasts, empty lounges, almost meetings that never happen. But after a while, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. To understand why a hotel would intentionally prevent certain guests from ever crossing paths, we have to return to a moment when connection became dangerous. Influence scaled too quickly. Networks grew crowded. The wrong meeting could leak information, collapse negotiations, or expose intentions too early. Proximity stopped being neutral. This hotel responded with subtraction. From the outside, it looked welcoming. Elegant shared spaces, open corridors, comfortable lounges designed for chance encounters. But beneath that openness was a precise logic. Not everyone should meet everyone else. And the hotel took responsibility for deciding who never should. The reveal began through absence. Guests noticed how often common areas felt curated, how certain spaces were empty when specific people were present, how timing never quite aligned with particular faces. It felt accidental. It was not. The hotel's architecture guided separation subtly. Multiple paths led to the same destination, but only certain paths overlapped. Elevators served overlapping zones without explanation. Dining hours shifted slightly depending on who was staying. Flow replaced force. Staff never explained the system. They didn't need to. Suggestions were framed as convenience. A quieter lounge, a later breakfast, a private corridor. Each choice felt optional. Each one adjusted proximity. This was not about secrecy alone. It was about containment. The hotel understood something unsettling. Some meetings create clarity. Others create chaos. And preventing the wrong encounter can be as powerful as enabling the right one. Guests were not isolated. They were positioned. And as long as the system remained invisible, no one questioned it. That silence was intentional. Because once you realize you are being kept apart from someone, you start asking why. And this hotel was built to ensure. That question rarely surfaced. As guests extended their stays, the separation began to feel less like coincidence and more like an invisible current guiding movement through the building, subtle enough to go unnoticed individually, yet precise enough to shape outcomes over time. People followed suggested routes without thinking. They accepted adjusted schedules without question. Convenience disguised intention perfectly. The reveal deepened through repetition. Certain guests never appeared in photographs together. Others occupied the same hotel for weeks without ever sharing a room, a hallway, or even a moment of eye contact. Stories of near encounters surfaced quietly. Missed elevators. Tables vacated seconds earlier. Conversations that almost happened. Staff played a crucial role, though never directly. They did not block access or give instructions. They offered alternatives. A different spa hour, a quieter dining room, a faster route. Guests believed they were optimizing comfort, unaware they were also preserving distance. What made the system effective was its neutrality. No one felt excluded. No one felt controlled. Each guest experienced the hotel as tailored to them personally. And personalization, when done well, feels like freedom. Over time, guests began noticing its effects externally. Negotiations proceeded smoothly without interference. Sensitive conversations remained contained. Tensions that might have erupted elsewhere never formed here. The absence of certain encounters prevented problems before they existed. But this control created a strange psychological tension. Guests sensed boundaries they could not see, an order they could not explain. Some leaned into it. They appreciated the calm, the lack of interruption, the way their objectives remained focused. Others felt unsettled. They wondered who they were not meeting, and why. The buildup intensified as a few guests attempted to test the system. They changed routines deliberately. They lingered in shared spaces. They arrived early and left late. The hotel adjusted instantly. Flow rerouted. Opportunities dissolved. Nothing broke. Nothing resisted. It simply never happened. The realization began forming quietly. This hotel was not reacting to guests. It was anticipating them. And anticipation, when invisible, is a form of power. The conflict was no longer about separation. It was about agency. If a place can decide who you never meet, what else can it decide for you? The conflict surfaced the moment guests stopped trusting chance. What once felt like coincidence began to feel intentional, and that realization carried weight. Because influence depends on unpredictability, and this hotel had quietly removed it. When proximity is curated, outcomes stop being accidental. The buildup intensified as guests compared experiences in subtle ways. Similar schedules, different encounters, identical spaces used at different times. Patterns emerged without being discussed openly. Everyone sensed a structure, yet no one could point to it. Some guests reacted with curiosity. They began watching movement more carefully. They noticed how staff lingered near certain corridors, how lighting subtly shifted in shared areas, how spaces filled and emptied with unnatural precision. The hotel was not hiding its system. It was relying on disbelief. Others reacted with unease. If meetings were prevented, what opportunities were being delayed? If conversations never happened, what futures were being altered? Attempts to override the system grew more deliberate. Guests coordinated informally. They tried synchronizing routines. They waited longer in shared spaces. Each effort failed without resistance. Encounters simply dissolved before forming. The emotional pressure peaked when guests understood the deeper implication. This hotel was not just managing privacy. It was managing possibility. By deciding who never met, it shaped what never existed. No conflict, no alliance, no idea. Absence became the most powerful tool of all. The hotel remained calm throughout. No rules were stated, no boundaries acknowledged. And that was the most unsettling part. When control operates without confrontation, it feels like freedom, until you realize freedom requires randomness. The reckoning was approaching, because once guests understood they were being positioned apart, they had to decide whether the calm was worth the cost. And that decision would reveal who valued certainty and who valued agency more. The climax arrived not through discovery, but through acceptance. Guests eventually realized the system would never reveal itself. There would be no confirmation, no admission, no moment where the hotel acknowledged what it was doing. And that was the point. Those who stayed understood the trade being offered. Calm in exchange for randomness. Stability in exchange for chance. Protection in exchange for possibility. Some guests felt relief. They stopped testing boundaries. They stopped wondering who they were not meeting. They focused inward, using the hotel as a buffer against unpredictability. Others felt constrained. They sensed that something essential had been removed, that friction, interruption, and even risk were part of how ideas evolve. Without them, outcomes felt clean but narrow. The resolution emerged quietly as guests began leaving in two distinct ways. Some departed grateful for the order, carrying clarity and focus back into their lives. Others left restless, eager to re-enter spaces where coincidence still existed, where chance encounters could disrupt plans and change direction unexpectedly. The hotel did not judge either choice. It continued doing what it was built to do, maintaining distance, preserving silence, preventing the wrong meetings before they ever formed. Its legacy was subtle but lasting. It proved that influence does not always come from connection. Sometimes it comes from separation. By deciding who never met, the hotel reshaped futures without ever appearing in them. And once you understand that, you begin to question how many calm environments around you are quietly deciding what never happens. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future. Why this